I am sitting by my window in Denver, Colorado, watching the sun rise over the Rocky Mountains. 3 years ago, I never imagined I would be here. I thought asking my girlfriend a simple question at 3 in the morning was normal. I thought caring about someone meant checking on them when they were not home. I was wrong about her, but I was never wrong about myself. That one question changed everything. Before we begin, let me know where you are watching from today. Drop your location in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe if you have not already. Stick with me, because what happened next taught me the difference between being clingy and simply caring about someone you love. My name is Bob, and I was 28 years old when this story began. I worked as a software engineer at a mid-sized tech company in Columbus, Ohio. My life was predictable, stable, maybe even a little boring. I went to work, came home, played video games, and hung out with a small group of friends on weekends. I was not looking for love, but love has a funny way of finding you when you least expect it. I met Megan at a mutual friend's birthday party on a warm Saturday evening in June. She was standing by the drink table, laughing at something someone said, and her smile lit up the entire room. She had this energy about her, this magnetic pull that made you want to be near her. She was 26, worked as a marketing manager at a local advertising firm, and she was absolutely beautiful. Not just physically, but the way she carried herself, the confidence in her voice, the way she made everyone around her feel important. We talked for hours that night about our jobs, our dreams, our favorite movies. She loved romantic comedies. I pretended to love them too, just to keep her talking. By the end of the night, we exchanged numbers, and I drove home feeling like the luckiest man in Ohio. The first few months were magical. Megan texted me good morning every day. She surprised me with lunch at my office. She planned weekend getaways to small towns I had never heard of. She made me feel seen, valued, loved. I fell hard and fast, and I thought she did too. After about a year of dating, we decided to move in together. We found a cozy 2-bedroom apartment downtown, close to both our jobs. I remember the day we got the keys, how we stood in the empty living room, imagining where the couch would go, where we would put the television, how we would spend our evenings together. I thought that was the beginning of forever. But forever has a way of unraveling when you are not paying attention. About 6 months after we moved in together, things started to shift. It was subtle at first, so subtle I almost missed it. Megan began coming home later from work. Not by much, just an hour here, 2 hours there. She always had reasons, meetings that ran long, deadlines that could not wait, team-building events that popped up out of nowhere. I believed her because I loved her, and love makes you blind to the things you do not want to see. Her phone became a fortress. She always placed it face down on the table. She changed her passcode without telling me. When notifications buzzed, she would glance at the screen and quickly turn it over. If I happened to be nearby when she was texting, she would angle her body away, shielding the screen like it contained state secrets. I started to notice the little things, the way she would step into the bathroom to take calls, the way she stopped sharing stories about her coworkers, the way she seemed distracted even when we were together, like her mind was somewhere else, with someone else. One night I tried to talk to her about it. I told her I felt like we were drifting apart. I told her I missed the way things used to be. She looked at me with this expression I had never seen before, a mixture of annoyance and something that looked almost like pity. "You are overthinking things," she said. "Everything is fine. You just need to relax." So I did. I relaxed. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself that every relationship goes through rough patches. I convinced myself that if I just gave her space, things would go back to normal. I kept cooking dinner for us, even though many nights she came home after the food had gone cold. I kept planning date nights, even though she canceled more often than she showed up. I kept trying, because that is what you do when you love someone. You try until you cannot try anymore. One Saturday evening, Megan told me she was going to a coworker's birthday party. I asked if I could come along. I thought it would be nice to meet her work friends, to be part of that side of her life. She shook her head quickly. "It is just a girls' night," she said. "You would be bored anyway." I did not push it. I stayed home and watched a movie by myself while she went out. Around 11, I was scrolling through Instagram when I saw her story. There she was at a rooftop bar, drinks in hand, laughing with a group of people. And in that group, there were definitely men. Not just one, but several. When she came home that night, I asked her about it. I tried to keep my voice calm, tried not to sound accusatory. "I thought you said it was a girls' night," I said. "I saw your story. There were guys there." Her face twisted with anger. "Why are you stalking my social media? Do you not trust me?" "I do trust you," I said. "I was just confused because you said it was just girls." She rolled her eyes and walked away, muttering something about me being suffocating. I stood there in the kitchen, feeling like I had done something wrong by simply asking a question. That night I lay in bed beside her, staring at the ceiling, wondering when things had become so complicated. I loved this woman. I wanted to build a life with her, but I was starting to feel like a stranger in my own relationship. I told myself it would get better. I told myself to be patient. I told myself that love was worth fighting for. I had no idea that the real fight was still coming. The weeks that followed were a slow descent into confusion. Megan's late nights became later. What used to be 9 or 10 in the evening stretched to 11, then midnight, then beyond. She always had explanations, but the explanations grew thinner, less convincing. A project deadline, a client emergency, happy hour that turned into dinner. I stopped asking questions because every question led to an argument. She accused me of not trusting her. She said I was controlling. She told me I was smothering her with my constant need to know where she was and what she was doing. So I learned to stay quiet. I learned to pretend I did not notice when she came home smelling like a different cologne. I learned to ignore the way she typed furiously on her phone and then quickly locked it when I walked into the room. Sleep became difficult. I would lie awake at night listening for her key in the door. Sometimes I would drift off around 1 in the morning only to wake up at 2 or 3 and find her side of the bed still empty. I would stare at the ceiling, my mind racing with thoughts I did not want to have. One evening, I came home early from work. Megan was in the shower and her phone was on the nightstand, buzzing with notifications. I know I should not have looked. I know it was a violation of her privacy. But something inside me needed to know the truth, even if the truth would break me. I glanced at the screen. There was a text from someone named Jay with a heart emoji next to the name. The preview showed just enough to shatter my world. "Last night was amazing. Miss you already." My hands trembled. My chest tightened. I felt like all the air had been sucked out of the room. I wanted to confront her right there, to demand answers, to scream and cry and ask her why. But something stopped me. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was the small part of me that still hoped I was wrong, that there was some innocent explanation. I put the phone back exactly where I found it. When Megan came out of the shower, I acted like everything was normal. We had dinner. We watched television. We went to bed. She fell asleep with her back to me, and I lay there in the darkness, feeling more alone than I had ever felt in my life. The days after that discovery were torture. I watched her more closely now, looking for signs for confirmation. Every smile at her phone felt like a knife. Every late night felt like a betrayal. But I said nothing. I waited, though I did not know what I was waiting for. Then came the night that changed everything. It was a Thursday, and I had a rare day off the next morning. Megan said she was going out with friends after work just for a quick drink. I told her to have fun. I meant it. I was trying so hard to be the understanding boyfriend, the partner who gave her space and freedom. I went to bed around 11, but sleep would not come. I tossed and turned, checked my phone, tried to read, gave up. At some point, exhaustion won, and I drifted into a restless sleep. I woke up suddenly at 2:45 in the morning. The first thing I noticed was the empty space beside me. The sheets were cold. She had not been there in hours. I grabbed my phone and called her. It rang and went to voicemail. I tried again. Same result. My heart was pounding now, not just from worry about our relationship, but genuine concern for her safety. It was almost 3 in the morning. Where could she possibly be? I sent her a text. "Where are you?" It is almost 3 a.m. I am worried. 15 minutes passed, the longest 15 minutes of my life. Then my phone rang. Her voice was cold, colder than I had ever heard it. "What do you want? I just wanted to make sure you were okay," I said. "It is really late." I was worried. There was a pause, and then she exploded. "Oh my God, you are so clingy. I cannot even breathe with you, constantly checking up on me. I was at a bar with friends." "Is that a crime now? Do I need to report my every move to you?" I tried to stay calm. "Megan, I was not trying to control you. I just woke up and you were not here. It is 3 in the morning. I think it is normal to wonder where the person you live with is." But she was not listening. She kept going, her voice rising with every word. "You are suffocating me. You are always checking on me like I am some kind of prisoner. I need space, Bob. I need to live my life without you monitoring my every move. This is exactly why I have been pulling away. You are too much." I sat there on the edge of the bedphone, pressed to my ear, listening to the woman I loved tear me apart for caring about her, for worrying about her safety, for doing what I thought any loving partner would do. When she finally stopped yelling, I sat in silence for a long moment. All the late nights, the hidden texts, the cologne that was not mine, the message from Jay, it all came flooding back. And suddenly, I was not angry anymore. I was just tired. Tired of fighting for someone who clearly did not want to be fought for. Tired of being made to feel crazy for loving someone. I took a deep breath and said one word. "Okay." She paused, clearly caught off guard. "Okay, what do you mean, okay?" "I mean, okay," I said. "You are right. I hear you." And then I hung up. She came home around 5 in the morning. I heard her stumble through the door, kick off her shoes, and collapse into bed without a word. Within minutes, she was snoring softly beside me. I did not sleep. I lay there for hours, staring at the ceiling, making a decision that had been building inside me for months. By the time the first light of dawn crept through the curtains, I knew exactly what I had to do. As soon as Megan's breathing became deep and steady, I got out of bed. I moved silently through the apartment, my mind clear for the first time in months. There was no anger, no sadness, just a strange sense of calm. I knew what needed to happen. I started with my phone. I opened every app where Megan could reach me. Instagram blocked, Facebook blocked, WhatsApp blocked, her number blocked. One by one, I severed every digital connection between us. Each tap of my finger felt like breaking a chain that had been wrapped around my chest. Then I started packing. I did not own much that was truly mine. Some clothes, my laptop, a few books, some personal items that had sentimental value. Everything fit into 2 suitcases and a backpack. The furniture, the kitchen stuff, the decorations, none of that was really mine anyway. We had bought most of it together, but it all felt like hers now. I moved quietly, careful not to wake her. I packed my toiletries from the bathroom, took my winter jacket from the closet, grabbed the box of photos from my parents that I kept on the top shelf. Everything else could stay. Everything else belonged to a version of me that I was leaving behind. When I was done, I stood in the kitchen and looked around the apartment one last time. We had been happy here once, or at least I thought we had been. But happiness built on lies is not really happiness at all. It is just a pretty illusion waiting to shatter. I found a notepad in the kitchen drawer and tore off a sheet. I wrote 6 words. "You said I was clingy, so I'm letting you go. Do not look for me." I placed the note on the kitchen counter, put my apartment key on top of it, and walked out the door. It was just after 6 in the morning when I pulled out of the parking garage. The streets were quiet, the city still asleep. I did not know where I was going. I just knew I had to go far, far enough that I could not be tempted to come back. I drove west, past the outskirts of Columbus, through the farmlands of Indiana, across the flat expanse of Illinois. I stopped for gas, for coffee, for brief moments of rest at highway rest stops. I kept driving, through Iowa, through Nebraska, through the endless plains that seemed to stretch on forever. Somewhere around the Colorado border, I made a decision. Denver. I had never been there before, never known anyone who lived there. It was perfect. A fresh start in a city where no one knew my name, my story, my pain. I arrived in Denver after nearly 20 hours of driving, exhausted but strangely alive. I checked into an Airbnb for a week, a small studio apartment in a quiet neighborhood. That first night, I slept for 14 hours straight, the deepest sleep I had gotten in months. The first few weeks were hard. I was in a new city with no job, no friends, no support system. I spent my days sending out resumes and my nights wondering if I had made a terrible mistake. But every time doubt crept in, I remembered the sound of Megan's voice screaming at me for daring to care about her. And I knew I had made the right choice. After 3 weeks, I landed a job at a tech startup in downtown Denver. The company was small but growing, and they needed someone with my skills. My new boss introduced me to the team, and that is when I met Derek. He was a fellow software engineer, a few years younger than me, with an easy smile and a terrible sense of humor that somehow always made me laugh. Derek became my first real friend in Denver. He showed me around the city, introduced me to his favorite restaurants and coffee shops, convinced me to join him for hikes on the weekends. I had never been much of an outdoorsy person back in Ohio, but something about the Colorado mountains called to me. Every trail I climbed, every summit I reached, felt like proof that I was capable of more than I had ever imagined. I started going to the gym regularly for the first time in my life. I picked up rock climbing at an indoor gym Derek recommended. I began reading again actual books instead of just scrolling through social media. I started cooking healthy meals instead of ordering takeout every night. Slowly, I was rebuilding myself from the ground up. But healing is not linear, and there were still hard nights. Sometimes I would wake up at 3 in the morning, heart pounding, reaching for someone who was not there. Sometimes I would see a woman with long brown hair on the street, and my breath would catch in my throat. Sometimes the loneliness felt so heavy I thought it might crush me. That is when I decided to see a therapist. Her name was Dr. Patterson, and she had an office with big windows that looked out at the mountains. Every Tuesday afternoon, I sat in her comfortable leather chair and talked about things I had never told anyone. About Megan, about the gaslighting, about how I'd been made to feel crazy for simply caring about someone I loved. Dr. Patterson helped me understand that what I experienced had a name: emotional manipulation. She helped me see that asking where your partner is at 3 in the morning is not clingy, it is caring. She helped me learn to recognize the red flags I had missed so I would never miss them again. There was a coffee shop near my apartment called The Morning Brew, run by a woman named Linda. She was in her 50s with silver-streaked hair and a warm laugh that made everyone feel welcome. I started going there every morning for my coffee, and eventually Linda and I became friends. She would ask about my day, remember little details I had mentioned weeks before, celebrate my small victories with me. Having someone who cared, even in that simple way, meant more than I could express. By my second year in Denver, I barely recognized the person I used to be. I had been promoted at work. I had a solid group of friends. I had hobbies and passions and a life that felt genuinely mine. I was not just surviving anymore. I was thriving. It was around this time that Derek convinced me to join a hiking group that met every Saturday morning. The group was friendly and diverse, people from all different backgrounds united by their love of the mountains. And that is where I met Sophie. Sophie was nothing like Megan. Where Megan was loud and flashy, Sophie was calm and thoughtful. Where Megan demanded attention, Sophie simply earned it through her kindness and intelligence. She was an elementary school teacher with a passion for wildlife photography, and she had the most genuine smile I had ever seen. We started as hiking buddies, then became friends, then slowly became something more. Sophie knew about my past because I told her early on. I did not want any secrets, any surprises. She listened without judgment, held my hand, and told me that she was sorry I had been treated that way. With Sophie, I learned what a healthy relationship could look like. We communicated openly. We respected each other's space while still being present. When I called her late at night because I missed her voice, she never made me feel clingy. She told me she loved hearing from me. I was finally happy, finally at peace. But I should have known that the past has a way of catching up with you no matter how far you run. It happened on a regular Tuesday afternoon, 3 years and 2 months after I left Ohio. I was sitting in the Morning Brew working on my laptop, enjoying my usual afternoon coffee. Linda had just brought me a slice of her famous apple pie on the house because I had helped her fix the shop's Wi-Fi the week before. The bell above the door chimed, and I glanced up out of habit. And there she was, Megan. She looked different, thinner than I remembered, with dark circles under her eyes that her makeup could not quite hide. Her hair, which she had always kept perfectly styled, was pulled back in a messy ponytail. She looked tired. She looked broken. Our eyes met, and for a moment neither of us moved. Then she walked toward my table, her steps hesitant, uncertain. "Bob," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "I finally found you." I did not stand up. I did not smile. I just looked at her with a calm I did not know I possessed. "Megan," I said, "how did you find me?" She slid into the seat across from me without being invited. "I hired a private investigator," she admitted. "It took almost a year, but I had to find you. I had to explain." I leaned back in my chair, taking a sip of my coffee. Later, I learned that her brother Nathan had found me on LinkedIn months earlier, but had not told her. He had actually reached out to me to apologize for his sister's behavior and to let me know she was struggling. Explain what I asked, why you were sneaking around behind my back, why you made me feel crazy for caring about you. Tears welled up in her eyes. "I made a mistake, Bob. A terrible mistake. Jay was a coworker and it was stupid and meaningless, and he left me after a few months anyway. After you disappeared, everything fell apart. I lost my job. I had to move back in with my parents. I was diagnosed with depression. I've been in therapy for 2 years trying to fix myself." She reached across the table for my hand, but I pulled it back. "I'm so sorry," she continued, tears now streaming down her face. "I did not realize what I had until I lost it. You were the only person who ever truly loved me, and I threw it away because I was selfish and scared and so stupid. Please, Bob, please give me another chance. I will be different this time, I promise." I sat in silence for a long moment, looking at this woman I had once loved more than anything. I thought about all the nights I had stayed up waiting for her, all the times she had made me feel like a burden for caring, all the pain she had caused me. But I also thought about the past 3 years, the growth, the healing, the person I had become, the life I had built, the woman waiting for me at home who loved me exactly as I was. I took a deep breath. "Megan," I said slowly, 3 years ago I asked you where you were because I loved you, because I was worried about you, and you called me clingy. You made me feel like I was crazy for caring." I know she sobbed. "I know, and I am so sorry." I shook my head. "Let me finish. I have spent the past 3 years healing from what you did to me. I went to therapy. I worked on myself. I built a new life from nothing. And somewhere along the way, I forgave you." Her eyes lit up with hope. "You did, I forgave you," I repeated. "But forgiving you does not mean I want you back. Forgiving you means I have let go of the anger and the pain so that it does not poison my life anymore. It does not mean I have forgotten, and it certainly does not mean I am giving you another chance." "But Bob," she pleaded. I held up my hand. "I am with someone now. Her name is Sophie, and she is the kindest, most wonderful person I have ever met. She does not make me feel crazy for caring about her. She does not disappear in the middle of the night and scream at me for asking where she is. She loves me, and I love her, and I'm going to marry her someday." Megan's face crumbled. I watched her heart break right there in that coffee shop, and I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not pity, just a peaceful emptiness where anger used to live. "You coming here today," I said gently, "it does not change anything. I hope you keep working on yourself. I hope you find happiness someday. I really do. But that happiness is not going to be with me. That door closed 3 years ago, and it is never opening again." We sat in silence for a moment. Then Megan wiped her eyes and stood up. "You deserved better than what I gave you," she said quietly. "I see that now." I nodded. "I know. I know that now too." She walked out of the coffee shop without looking back. I watched her go, and I felt something I had not expected. Gratitude. Gratitude that she had treated me so badly, because that pain had led me here. To Denver. To Sophie. To the life I was always meant to live. That evening, I went home to our apartment. Sophie was curled up on the couch with a book, and she smiled when I walked in. "How was your day?" she asked. I sat down beside her and took her hand. Interesting, I said. I will tell you about it later. But first, I just want to sit here with you. She leaned her head on my shoulder, and I looked out the window at the mountains turning gold in the sunset. I thought about the scared, confused man who had driven into this city 3 years ago with nothing but 2 suitcases and a broken heart. He would not recognize the person I had become. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is not fighting to stay in a situation that is destroying you. Sometimes the bravest thing is knowing when to walk away and never look back. I thought I was running away when I left Ohio that morning, but I was not running away from something. I was running toward myself. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to walk away from someone you loved because they made you feel small for caring? How did you find the strength to leave? Drop your story in the comments below. I read every single one, and I know your experiences can help others who are going through the same thing right now. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and share it with someone who might need to hear it. And if you have not already subscribed to this channel so you do not miss the next story. Thank you for being here, thank you for listening, and I hope you always remember that caring about someone is never a weakness. The real strength is knowing your worth and refusing to settle for anyone who makes you forget it. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next one.